me see. Good evening. Shout out to Erica, Latinx and social work. Wepa. Well, thanks. Appreciate that. Thanks for sharing the love, Erica. I gotta burn some sage today. It's a sage kind of day. So I'm just gonna wait a few minutes. I have an amazing guest today. I'm just burning some sage. Oh, you burned sage yesterday? I try to burn it every day because I just be needing it. So it's like a self-care practice. And I heard that if you burn sage, that it can also sort of be like an antibacterial. And so like whatever's in the air gets like dealt with. So I also think about that as well when I burn sage. Not just thinking about like sort of like getting the negative energy away, but also thinking about like the antibacterial benefits. So that's interesting. Fanteema, I'm gonna Fanteema, go into you gotta like request me to like, I don't know how you do it. You gotta do something. Like request me to allow you in. So it's 7 p.m. Welcome to those of you who are in the room, and welcome to those of you who will see this live later on. This is the 8th episode of Unpacking White Supremacy in the Mental Health Field. And as always, the intention of this Unpacking White Supremacy in the Mental Health Field is to bring awareness to how white supremacy impacts the mental health field, not only us as clinicians and therapists and mental health professionals, but also the clients that we serve. And the intention obviously is to just bring awareness over and over again, because it's not like anything changed. And so I really want to make sure that we keep pushing this conversation so that it becomes, so that the awareness is the norm. It's not like the exception. Like, oh, only a few of us know about this. I really would like for many of us to start having this conversation, because it has to become part of our practice when we're thinking about white supremacy, and when we're thinking about mental health, and when we're thinking about what Black and brown communities are dealing with as far as their mental health. We can't pretend that white supremacy is not impacting our communities just because it makes some people uncomfortable. It said you don't see an option to request on your computer, Fanteema? I don't know what that means. I'm gonna try to see if I request you. Let me just explain this real quick. And by the way, we've done this is our 8th live, and so we've done 7 previously. And I see you now, Fanteema. I'm gonna get you on in 2 seconds. So this is our 8th live, and so we've recorded 7 IG live series or episodes, and 3 of them have gotten deleted so far. So 3 of my lives have been deleted by Instagram. So I imagine that there's a bunch of Karens out there with nothing else better to do who want to erase our truths and our experiences as far as how we experience our lives. And please stop. Like, I mean, come on. Like, I feel like there's something else you could be doing instead of trying to erase our lived experiences and our truths. And so, with that being said, actually I have all my lives saved on my computer. And so I'm going to upload them all to YouTube. At least on YouTube, we won't get as harassed as if you're on Instagram and people start reporting your lives just because they're offended or just because they don't like what they hear. That white fragility is real. White fragility is real. And I just wish that y'all could deal with that, like in therapy, or like, I don't know, go to like an ayahuasca retreat, do something, speak to a shaman or somebody, a priest. But we need to have our space to express ourselves and to be in community with each other, because we deal with similar experiences. And that's just what it is across the board. I don't care who it is. I've met thousands of people in my lifetime, and most of them were black and brown. And when you speak to other black and brown people, no matter what our status is as far as class, what our educational level is, how much money we're making, what neighborhoods we live in, it don't matter nothing. It don't matter if you come from the Caribbean, from Puerto Rico, from Haiti. It don't matter where you come from. You could come from Mexico. You could come from so many different spaces, and we all have a collective experience that's very similar, and that is white supremacy. And so we're going to continue having these conversations. We're going to continue pushing this forward, so we can continue to bring awareness. Now, it's already 7:04, so I've already talked enough. I'm Antonio Morales. I am the founder of the Liberated Self Therapeutic Services, LLC. And one of my main goals with my private practice is to deal with the adverse impact of white supremacy, specifically as it has impacted black and brown communities. Now, my guest, Fanteema Barnes, LCSW, I've known her for a few years now, and I just want to share that me and Fanteema have an interesting history, because at our previous workplace, we used to work at Rutgers University, and it was sort of challenging to work in that space. And Fanteema was one of my team members in the Justice and Equity team. But beyond that, she really affirmed a lot of my experiences that I was going through. And she was one of the first staff members when she actually got on board who made me realize, or not made me realize, but affirmed my experiences by letting me know I wasn't crazy. Because she had dealt with similar experiences before. And so shout out to you, Fanteema. I'm glad you're going to come on this live today. I'm going to accept you now so we can get this party started. Doop. Let's see what happens. There you go.
Hey.
Do you hear me loud and clear?
Yep.
Okay, hold on, because it was just sunny and bright in here, and then the sun decided to leave like in 2 seconds. Let me try to turn the light on over here. Okay. Because I was like, I don't need a light, because the sun was so bright, because it was going down. So when it comes down on this side, my whole attic gets lit up. And so I didn't need a light for like 3 minutes. Now it's light. Can you imagine?
Well, we have extended daylight savings time permanently now.
That's what they said in 2023, they said?
I think so.
What difference does it make to my life? It don't make no difference. My issue is not with the daylight savings or anything like that. My issue is with other things, as you know.
Yeah.
So how's it going, Fanteema? What's up?
It's going pretty good. No complaints.
Don't tell me that your computer's going to start acting up right now.
I'm on my phone.
Oh, now you're on your phone. You know what I do with my phone before I start these lives? I'd like shut off all the notifications. I delete all the history. I just clean it out to make sure that it's not because when I was on the live with Sean, when I was playing it back, I saw that I was talking, but I was like, it was not in sync. Like Sean, you can hear him clear. Like he was in sync with his voice and his movement. I wasn't. I was like lagging behind, and I don't know what was happening. So now I just make sure that I clear out everything so that I can have an uninterrupted live.
So maybe I should do that.
Well, don't disconnect yourself now.
No, I'm here.
Okay, so before we begin, I always like to have my guests. By the way, can I just say something? So I have this Ninja Turtle cup. See, now you doing that. See, now you're doing this. I have this Ninja Turtle cup, right? So my cousin, shout out to my cousin Elisa, who might watch this later. Why you doing a Ninja Turtle cup on your lives? She doesn't understand that I'm tapping into my warrior spirit. So I need the Ninja Turtle cup. You know what I'm saying? Fanteema,
What?
you can hear me?
Yeah. It
Like
is
I knew,
lagging
like
though.
what you said?
It's lagging.
I knew it. So I'm lagging.
Yeah.
Oh damn. So anyway, I need my Ninja Turtle cup. Supremacy. You got to tap into the warrior spirit, and so that's what I'm doing. So Elisa, my cousin, she said I should have the Liberated Self Therapeutic symbol on a mug, which I will eventually. But in the meantime,
Yeah.
I'm improvising. So
Do what you have to
Fanteema,
do.
for now, huh?
No, I said you do what you have to do.
You do what you gotta do. So for an icebreaker, I like to ask my guests to let us know, where your people are from. So your ancestors and your elders, like where y'all come from, where you come from, because there's a way to honor, the shoulders we stand on top of. And so inside of letting me know where your peoples come from, let me know one characteristic or attribute that you've inherited that has made a difference in your life and how that shows up today in your world.
Hmm. So my immediate family is a mixed bag. My father is from Costa Rica, and my mom's side of the family is mixed with white and Jamaican. And I, on purpose, did not do one of those DNA tests. You know, what is it? 23andMe or Ancestry.com. I, on purpose, did not want to do it because I already knew I had white people in my family. And I don't want to see how deep it went. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to know. Ignorance is bliss for me. So, because I already knew my maternal
So
grandmother
funny.
was biracial.
Okay, but what's so funny? I was just thinking today, like I'm glad like the sun is out a little bit because I'm getting my melanin back. Because during the winter, I'm like I feel suspect. I'm like I don't trust you anymore because I got mad light. You know what I'm saying? And I've been looking at her. I was like, so I feel what you're saying though.
I was like,
Looking to
yeah, I don't want to know all the details. So the little bit that I do know was enough for me. So I knew my maternal grandmother was black and white. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was Jamaican. My mom was born in the South, and on my father's side of the family, they're all from Costa Rica. So I was like, all right, I'm not going any deeper than that. I'm not ready for the rest of the information. That's enough for now. So I consider myself Afro-Latina, but when you have all those check-off boxes and all those surveys you have to answer, they don't have an option for that. So I have to check off my race and then check off my ethnicity separately. So I'm always checking off Black, African American, and then check off Hispanic or Latino. My sister just puts other. And I just found that out like last year that she was putting other for everything.
Wow.
Yeah, so we just mixed with a whole bunch of stuff in my family. Yeah.
So what positive characteristic or attribute do you sort of inherit from them that you sort of carry in your life today? And how does that show up in your life?
I would say it's definitely more than one thing. And I just started recognizing this. People have been telling me over the years, but I just started recognizing it in myself. Definitely strength. That's the one thing that I've just started noticing in myself. And for a long time, people would tell me, I had a friend that I used to work with. Gosh, this was like in my early 30s. And she told me, you've lived the life of like an 81-year-old person. You need to write a book. And that was way before I even went through half of the stuff that I've gone through since knowing her. So just from up to that point, she was already like, you need to write a book because of all the stuff you've been through. And I don't know how you kept pushing through. And so strength was definitely one of them. But then also my ability, and you told me this a lot too, my ability to be resourceful. Right? I'm
That's
always
right.
able to find things, find things for cheap prices, find resources to get me to the next step. Whatever it is, I'm going to find it and I'm going to use it.
No, I think you're one of the most resourceful people I've ever met because I don't know how you just somehow find the answers to everything. Like whatever it is, like anything. Like you might need whatever. I can't even tell you what it is because there's so many things, but you will find what you need for that, whatever that is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I always have this saying, I forgot who created this saying. I think it was Milton Berle or somebody. That whole thing about opportunity knocking, right? So they're like, if opportunity doesn't knock, build your own door. That's me. I'm always building my own door.
That's right.
So that's where my resourcefulness comes from. If I can't get it from somewhere, I'm making it myself.
Exactly. So now with that being said, now we did this icebreaker. Can you sort of formally introduce yourself? Tell us, again, I already said your name, but you can say it again. What is your current position? Where are you located? And how long you've been in the mental health field? And what inspired you to get into the mental health field?
Yeah, sure. So again, my name is Fanteema Barnes. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I hold my LCSW in 3 states, New York, New Jersey, and North Carolina. I'm originally from New York, and I moved to New Jersey, about maybe 13, 14 years ago. And I just left New Jersey last summer and moved to North Carolina. So that's why I hold licenses in all 3 of those states. And I've been in social work for over 20 years. I know I don't look like it. Thank you. You know what they say about black, it doesn't crack. But I've been doing this for a long time.
You know black no crack. Stop playing. Everybody knows that.
And I actually am currently doing my private practice full time. It's called the SWEET Network, and SWEET stands for Supporting Women to Empower and Enhance Themselves. And I've had that company since 2013, but I've been doing it part-time. And I just went officially full-time last summer when I decided to move to North Carolina. That's when I decided to just go full-time and do my practice. It grew from a solo practice into a group practice, and it's all telehealth. I've been doing telehealth and didn't supposed to do it. And so now I have a group practice. I have about 9. Say it again?
I missed your joke because you got cut off. It better not be my phone. It better be yours.
Well, I am in the country, so it could be mine. I could take responsibility for that because I'm in the country now. So.
You said you out of the country? You out of the country?
No, I'm not out of the country. I live in the country. I'm in the country in North Carolina, so.
Oh, it is your phone. That's okay. Don't be trying to play with my phone like that. So it is your phone.
I didn't blame you. I said take responsibility for it.
Okay, go. Uh-oh, what happened now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. You need I don't know what kind of Wi-Fi service you need over there, but they need to step up their game over there.
Yeah, they only have Spectrum. You probably never even heard of Spectrum before.
Is that like a satellite?
No.
Oh, okay.
No satellite. Yeah.
So continue. Continue. Who are you saying?
So I was saying that I have my group practice now, and it's all telehealth. And it's been telehealth since 2015. I was saying that I wasn't forced into it due to the pandemic. I was choosing to do it way before the pandemic because I knew how accessible it would be for clients, but also how easy it would be for therapists. And there's a lot of therapists that have health issues, chronic pain issues. It's hard for them to get into the office themselves, or they have childcare issues. And so it's convenient not only for the clients, but it's also convenient for therapists as well. And so I've been doing it for a while now. And now, I have my private practice that's been going pretty strong since 2019 as a group practice. I have about 9 interns and about 4 staff right now.
Wow. Fanteema, it grew since we was working together back then. Wow, that's amazing.
Yep.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so what inspired you to get into the mental health field?
So actually, I don't know if I ever told you the story, but initially when I was thinking about careers way back when I was in high school, I wanted to be a divorce lawyer. And I went to high school for law. And once I found out, that it was more paperwork and not all the glamorous courtroom arguing that I thought it was, that I saw on TV, I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to do that anymore. I don't want to be sitting in the office doing paperwork all day. And so I noticed that I was a person that in my circle, my family, my friends, whoever it was, they were always coming to me for advice. And I was always the person that was really solid and strong in crisis. You know, I always kept my calm. I always was able to give advice or have the answers for things. And I thought,
Yeah.
what can I do to monetize on this? And it wasn't about money because, you know, as a lot of people say, when you go into the mental health field, it's not really for money. Even though you can be successful, you don't really go into it for the money.
Right.
But I was looking for a career that I could utilize those skills that came naturally to me. And so I did some research and I came across social work. And I never looked back ever since then. That's what I went to college for, and I've stayed true to it ever since.
And so how come? You think because of how you was a support to your family that sort of, it felt like a right match for you?
That was a big part of it, but it was also because of a lot of the adversity that I went through in my life, growing up in the projects, being in a single parent household. You know, I used to joke around about it, and I used to say, you know, name a Black stereotype, and I would give you a person in my family that fits it. Because it was just so much that I dealt with. And I was like, you know, I want to make sure that I can do my part to help people that have gone through at least half of what I've gone through to be able to deal with this success.
Right.
And have support for it.
Right.
And so that's what my real motivation was. You know, helping people to not go through what I went through or to help them deal with it with support, like I felt like I didn't have.
Right. I got that. Okay, that makes sense. I relate to that because, you know, part of my journey is, you know, to recognize some of my challenges and to work through those challenges and heal and transcend from them sort of inspired me to just want to give back. Because I realized that so many people in my community are dealing with exactly the same kind of stuff I'm dealing with, different experiences, but the same crap, right? Ultimately, just translated in different ways. And that also was one of the inspirations that sort of got me on that path as well.
Yeah. And I think most of us that get into the mental health field get into it because of personal things that we've gone through.
You know, my brother always says this, and I absolutely disagree with this, only because I see it like that every single human being, I don't care if they're social workers or they're therapists or they work on Wall Street or they're teachers or they're police officers, whatever the profession is, they all got issues. So I feel like we sort of think that we get into the mental health field because of our issues, but I think it's just because of, you know, the fact that a lot of us want to serve our people. I think there's a lot of us, I don't think all of us, but most of us are like empaths and compassionate human beings. And so I think that's what drives us to sort of get in the field more than our challenges, because everybody got issues. You feel me? We just happen to like learn the language around it, which makes us seem like it sets us apart, but it really doesn't. And my brother always tells people go to therapy, they want to be therapists because they're all messed up. I was like, that's not actually true. Because the people coming to us
no, that's not what I mean when I say it. I don't mean that way. No, I don't mean because we're all messed up.
That's what he means.
No. No, I think it's because of the challenges that we've gone through that we don't want to see other people go through what we went through.
Right, exactly. But I think there's a certain level of there is an empathetic component to it all, because you have to be empathetic to some degree in order to do this work. Same way doctors and nurses and so on and so forth. Even though the industrial the health field sort of makes them lose their empathy because it's all about the insurance and pays and numbers. So now, with that being said, obviously this is a conversation about unpacking white supremacy. So in your own words, right? There's no right or wrong answer. How would you define or describe white supremacy?
The simple answer, I could boil it down to this. It's the idea that white is right in every facet of our lives. I mean, when I hear it put that way, that explains it all to me. You know, whether it's business, whether it's how you dress, whether it's what you eat, whether it's how you eat it. You know, we have all of these ways that we're supposed to sit at the table, and we have a salad fork and whatever that other fork is for, I don't even know. But it just boils down to so many different things that we have to do that is based on white culture. And if you're not doing it that way, you're wrong. Right? So that's really what it means to me. White is right.
White is right. You know what's so funny about those salad forks and I always thought like the big ones were for the adults and the small ones were for the kids. I mean, what the hell? I mean, why would they have small ones for them? That's what I thought. So when you're thinking about white supremacy and we're thinking about the mental health field, you were contextualizing it and we're sort of directing our focus into the mental health field. Can you give me 3 examples that can to describe how you've seen or witnessed white supremacy show up in the mental health field? Now they have to be, they're just brief. You don't have to go into it depth because we're going to go into them in depth. So just give me 3 examples ways that you see it show up in the mental health field.
Yeah, definitely the idea of professionalism, what it means to be a professional in the mental health field, you know, like the therapist side of it. Diagnoses, definitely the whole concept of a diagnosis is another one. And then this whole idea of, well, actually, if I could come up with 4 things. Cultural competency, that's another one. Right? But then the 4th one,
competency, you said?
Cultural competency.
Okay.
That whole idea. Yeah. But then the 4th one would be access to care. That's a big one.
So is that like lack of access to care?
Mostly around the cost of mental health services and dealing with insurance. Yeah.
That is so. That's
it really affects people of color.
Yes, and we can't afford. We can't. It's so expensive. It's like a privilege to get mental health, services. It's like really a privilege. And then if we're fortunate to go to like a community, if we're fortunate enough to go to like a community-based organization, which it might be a not-for-profit, we might not get the same level of mental health treatment as if we paid like a therapist outside of that, right? Because of the way those sort of structured. I feel like, and this is no shade to any non-for-profits, but I've been in many non-for-profits, and I feel like a lot of the services were like it's like grassroots services is different because it's not like everybody who's in those positions are like trained as mental health professionals, and so a lot of things could be harmful to the clients we serve. No shade again to non-for-profits. It is what it is, and that's part of the design, not by our intentions at least, but the systemic intentions. And so, yeah, I get that, the access to mental health treatment. Wait, there's somebody, there's Rosalita Azevedo saying, hey,
oh, yeah.
I don't know the
Hey, Rosie.
Okay.
Yeah, those are hairstylists back in Jersey. Hey, Rosie.
Okay, so now that you've mentioned examples, can you take one and expand on it and give us like a specific something that you witnessed and then talk about the impact of that, not only the impact on maybe yourself, but on the clients?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I can talk about the professionalism piece. Impact on me personally, I remember this was back when I was doing my internship in the master's program. I worked for this Hispanic mental health center, research center. So we did research. We were in the Bronx, and we did research with pregnant and parenting women. And we did home visits, and then we had to go back to campus, and we had staff meetings and things like that. And most of us were people of color, actually. But the ironic thing about it was that the piece about professionalism came up a lot. So we would sit around in our staff meetings, and I was quiet. And the reason why I was quiet was because they would talk about things that I couldn't relate to. Baseball, their pets, just random small talk conversations, but I couldn't relate to it. You know, there wasn't something that I was involved in. I wasn't really interested in it. And the fact that I had to travel from the Bronx after working all day in the field for the internship to go to Manhattan to the school to have the meeting at the end of the day. I'm tired. I want to get to business so I can get home to Brooklyn. So that's 3 boroughs I'm dealing with.
Wow.
And they're sitting there talking about baseball. I don't care about baseball. Can we get to the point in the meeting so I can go home? You know?
Right. No, yeah.
And so I'm sitting there and I'm engaged, and to the point where I can speak on things that are related to the topic that I know about, right? But if they're talking about things that I'm not really familiar about, I can't speak on it, but I'm listening and I'm paying attention, right? So one day, the director of the program, older Hispanic male, pulls me aside, wants to have a separate meeting with me. Fanteema, I noticed that, you're really quiet and it doesn't seem like you're very engaged in the conversations. And I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, what is there to be engaged about? Like, you're not even talking about work. What do you want me to say? You just better be glad that I'm here. It took me like 90 minutes to get here on the train. Just be glad that I'm here, okay? And I'm doing my job. Nobody's giving me any complaints. I do my job well. Like, what more do you want from me, right? But that started to plant the seeds of doubt in my mind about how I showed up in the world and in the workplace, right? And so I started to question myself, right? What am I doing? What am I not doing? What am I doing enough of? What am I doing too much of? Because when I spoke up, it was the complete opposite effect. Now I'm the angry Black woman, right? I'm too aggressive, right? If I assert myself, I'm being the bitch. I'm being too bossy, right? So you can't win. It's either you're too quiet or you're too much for people, right? So I was all confused. I didn't know what to do, right? There's really no middle line. You can't really straddle the fence. So I just kind of based it on situations, And that was very confusing because it was like an extra job that I had, So it's not only doing the work in the job description, but it's also trying to manage other people and how I present myself to these other people and making sure that I'm not offending anybody or that I'm not being unprofessional, right? So I'm working with all of this on top of just trying to do my job.
Yeah.
Right?
It's funny because I think about when I think about that type of experience, it's like that code switching that we talk about. So it's like we have to not only code switch the way we speak, but then we got to code switch the way we move, the way we show, just the way anything, like any part of our humanity has to be sort of checked as we're sort of maneuvering through those spaces, which then makes it an extra job, like you're saying, right? And so what was I know you said it was confusing, but what was the impact on you?
The impact was definitely to my confidence and my self-esteem. I was not confident at all going into workspaces. I questioned myself all the time, even when I applied for jobs. And there's a lot of research on this too that I found out later on. And I forget exactly what the research was done on, but I know they did research on white men compared to others. And I don't know exactly who the others were, but I know women of color were in the others group.
I think it was white men versus Black men. Let's see.
I think it was another one done on Black women as well. It was a study that showed that if a white man is applying for a job and they don't meet all the criteria that's listed, they're still going to apply for the job. But if it's a woman that's applying for the job, especially a minority woman, if we see one thing on the job description that we don't feel like we meet the criteria for, we're not applying at all. We don't think we qualify for it. Yeah. So I experienced that a whole lot.
So you're saying something about like how Black white men apply to jobs versus Black women.
Mm-hmm. Like and about the confidence level.
The way that you approach that. That's so interesting. Cause that's real though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you think you need like a whole like giant, you know what I'm saying? Where you can like I feel like what happened with the Supreme Court woman that just happened recently. I felt like it was like that. Meanwhile, most likely that those white men who are applying for those jobs don't probably even have the qualifications you have.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but they're still going confidently, even if they meet one thing on that list. They're like, I'm going to sell the hell out of that one thing. Forget about the rest of it. But But we're the complete opposite. If we don't have that one thing, we're like, I'm not applying at all. I don't qualify at all, even though we have all the other stuff.
Wow. And so that experience, even thinking about your professionalism in that particular job you was at, that had you sort of question your confidence. So how did that trickle down to the clients or the work you did with clients?
Especially now, because most of my clients are women of color, and a lot of them are professionals, quote unquote professionals. Well, instead of saying professional, I'll say they have their careers. You know, they went to college and they're in their jobs, their chosen jobs. I'll put it that way. And they all have the same complaints, no matter what field they're in. They experience it on some level. And I'm talking about people that even work with all Black people. They still experience it. Yeah. So these are a lot of things that we talk about in our sessions. I was saying that.
Say that again. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. I was saying how a lot of my clients, women of color, no matter what field they're in, they still experience this on some level. And even clients that work in all Black places, they still experience this whole professionalism thing.
Really? Okay, so I would like you to expand on that, please, because that's something that we often don't see, how we are complicit with oppressing each other and ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you expand on that?
We hold each other to, yeah, definitely. We hold each other to higher standards. We make the work more difficult for each other. You know, we have higher expectations of each other because we feel like we have to prove something to them, right? So we put each other under these microscopes because we have to prove ourselves to them. We have to be better than them. We have to do 200%, even though they might be doing 50% and getting paid way more than us, right? So they feel like they're doing us a favor by pushing us harder, but it's not doing us a favor at all. It's doing the complete opposite.
Wow. You know, that's so interesting because we often, I think sometimes that we're more, you know, spaces that are predominantly people of color, which is rare. But if we are, it's like, we don't realize that that could be happening because we think, well, you know, we're all like family and stuff, but we don't know that we could be sort of perpetuating white supremacist ideologies, you know, on top of each other, like pushing it on top of each other.
Right, because that's the world that we're working in. You know, we haven't defined professionalism for ourselves. We're just basing it on what we all know and what we're familiar with, which is white is right. Until we're able to break away from that and define it for ourselves, we're always going to be basing everything on that.
Right, which is horrible. I think it's hard. I feel like a lot of time, I always think that we're like in the United States of America and in different corporate spaces or institutions that we step into, it always feels like we're in that movie Get Out. I always feel like we're in Get Out, like, and we're drinking some kind of tea from a Ninja Turtle cup, and like we're like all the way like not present. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I understand, and that really, and I feel like when it creeps into our own spaces, is that much more hurtful. I feel like. I mean, at least the way I interpret it is like, because we need to at least feel safe with each other.
Right.
I'm saying, like, if
yeah.
we feel safe with each other, then what's the point?
Right, because we seek each other out, trying to get away from everything we're dealing with in the world, and then when we find it even worse in our own backyard, it's like there's no escape.
There's no escape, and I think that can lead anyone to feel hopeless and discouraged and disheartened. Right? It's demoralizing as fuck because we want to be able to show up as our best selves and not be oppressed every single way we turn to, like every space we go into. Right?
Right.
So now, with that being said, in your experience, have you ever challenged or addressed white supremacy in the mental health field? And if you have, how was the feedback or backlash from doing that?
Tons of backlash.
Give us an example. Tell me what went down.
Oh, God. I mean, I've been challenging it in so many different jobs that I've had for so long that I don't even know where to begin. I got fired from a job because I was challenging it. Okay. So that was the biggest impact that I had. A job that I was at for 7 years, that I helped to build the company up from 20 people sitting around a conference room table in Lower Manhattan to the point where we were in Midtown Manhattan, had over 100 staff in like 2 different states. And racism was what got me let go. And most of my Black colleagues got let go from that position.
So when you say,
Speaking
can you be like specific about when you say racism, like how did that show up for you specifically in that space?
So I had white supervisors, right? And the founders of the company were white. And it showed up in a lot of different ways. It showed up in terms of that whole idea of professionalism, right? I don't know if you heard of water cooler talk before. You know, like Monday mornings, you come in and people ask how was the weekend, and then everybody's talking about what they did over the weekend, and the conversations are all going in a certain direction, right? And then some people are not participating, like me, not really participating, because everybody's talking about how they went to the Hamptons or Vermont or Maine or something. And I'm like, so I was at home and I went to ShopRite and Home Depot because I had to fix up my house again because it's falling apart. And so you start to shy away from those conversations because it's like, I'm not really going to add anything new to the conversation. I'm doing the same thing every weekend because I don't have money to travel all over the place like you all are doing, right. You know? And so I'm feeling like I can't really relate to them. So I'm like distancing myself and just kind of focusing on my work, right? And when you're growing up as a minority, you're kind of taught, especially when you grow up in the hood, you're taught a certain way of life. You're taught to keep your head down, do what you have to do, don't make any waves, get the job done. That's it, right? But then all of a sudden you get into the workforce and it's the complete opposite. Now it's about networking and connections and small talk, all these things that we're never taught, right? So it's completely foreign to us. And it's really pushing us out of our comfort zones to be able to do stuff like that. And when we're not able to do it to the way that they think it should be done, there's something that's wrong with us, right? And so that was one of the big ways that it showed up in that job, where I felt like I wasn't really connecting to my colleagues, right? And especially to my direct supervisor, right? And another way it showed up was that my direct supervisor was, let's just say, a lot less knowledgeable about the job than I was. I'll put it that way. Which I have found has been very common with a lot of people, that they have somebody supervising them that does not know what they're doing. And then they're the one that's doing all the work, but getting zero credit for it, right? So I had a supervisor that I was pretty much cleaning up their mess for them because they were just coming in and just messing things up. And I was the one that was doing the cleanup, right? And so to the higher ups, it looked like our team was working great, right? Because I was doing all the cleanup behind the scenes, right? But the person that was running the show made it seem like they were doing this fabulous job, and they were so knowledgeable because they would be the ones speaking up in meetings and everything. And I would just be sitting there like taking my notes and doing what I had to do, right? Doing everything behind the scenes. And so that was another way that it showed up. And one of the biggest ways that it showed up was just the whole idea of, I guess you could call it the white savior complex, right? Going in thinking that you're going to help these impoverished, needy people, right? That was the kind of the premise of the job that I worked in, right? It was like these people were going to come in and save, because we did consultant work for public schools in New York City. And so they were thinking that we were going to like come in and save the kids in the hood, right? We're going to revamp the system, give them all these services that they haven't had, and all these kids are going to be great and get great scores on their exams and pass their classes, and everything is going to be right with the world, right? Because of this fabulous program, right? Not the case at all. But their advertising spoke to it as well, right? So they had this idea that they were going to come in and save everybody. These people that are just like so distraught and living in squalor, basically. Like they showed us a video, a marketing video that they did. And we worked in a lot of schools in the Bronx. And I'll never forget, they were so excited about this video. They called the staff meeting. They're like, okay, we have the video. Everybody get ready. We're going to watch it. And so they start showing this footage of these kids hanging out in the street. They're shooting graffiti on the walls. All the kids have their pants hanging down to their ankles, looking like they're on the corner selling drugs. And I was looking at my colleagues. We're sitting there looking at each other. I'm like, did you go to that school and work there? Because that doesn't look like the neighborhood I work in. I don't know where that is that they feel. But that is not where I work. Like, it made it seem like it was like these areas that like we should really be afraid for our lives to go into. And we're all sitting there, the ones that actually do the work, we're like, what is happening right now? Like, I don't work in a place that looks that scary. Like, these kids are not that scary. There's not graffiti all over the place. Like, what is this? And they were so proud of this video. But that was stuff that we had to combat on a daily basis on the ground level going into these schools. And the schools didn't even want us there because they knew that people were coming in with that mentality of, we have to save you. And so us on the ground level doing the work had to fight that all the time. And it just got to the point where it was too much. And then when the program was failing, instead of them taking accountability for it, they started letting us go. That was the solution.
So, I was thinking, when you was talking about like earlier, when you're talking about the cooler talk, what's it called? The cooler talk? By cooler talk, what?
Water cooler talk.
Water cooler talk. Okay.
Yeah.
And you was talking about like, I'm wondering if when we're thinking about the idea of professionalism, is it really about professionalism, or do you think there's certain ways that when we go into spaces that are predominantly white, that we have to be like, not because we want us, in some ways they want us to conform and assimilate, but I was thinking when you was talking that it felt like a way to keep us in control. Like, we have to control you. That's part of what we're here to do, is always control you. You get what I'm saying? Like, we're supposed to be like desensitized in such a way where we're constantly policed. And it sort of looks like conversations around professionalism when it's really like this idea of, let me continue to police you. Because, we see it all across the country, not only in workplaces, but on the street, in the stores, in the playground, anywhere, right? At barbecues.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of, it's funny because I'm working on a workshop for tomorrow for the Rutgers students, for the Latino Student Council, Rutgers Latino Student Council. And it's Unpacking White Supremacy, but looking at the adverse impact. And one of the things that I'm going to bring up is basically like the different examples of policing, which also includes the Karens, right? And so when I was listening to you, I was thinking about one of the parts of the presentation that I'm doing, and I felt like I got present to, not that it didn't really matter if it was professionalism or not. It mattered whether you was under their control or not. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah,
I can see that, because with the water cooler talk and just with how we present ourselves and show up in staff meetings, there's always something that we're not doing right. Either we're too quiet, we're talking too much, we're talking too loud, we're talking too aggressively, we're not talking enough. Like, we can never do anything right. There's always something.
Right. And it's funny, the reason why I also thought about that was because in my previous job, a lot of people question my professionalism. Not even a lot, a few haters, a few Karens, and which didn't make any sense to me. And they like even scrutinized the way I dress. Meanwhile, I was like wearing slacks all the time. Like, what the hell? What you want me to do? Like, come with a bow tie and like I'm going to a funeral? Like, it's casual. And what I realized that my time in that particular job, they didn't really care about anything the way I showed up. They just wanted me to be controlled. And one of the things that they couldn't do was control me. They couldn't control my self-expression. They couldn't control my convictions, my commitments. They couldn't control the type of style of work that I do. They couldn't, all those things. And so I was listening to that when you were speaking. I was sort of relating to that in that way as well. Like, this is not even about professionalism. This is not about professionalism. It's about how can we control you because you are inferior in comparison to me, as a white person, as a white counterpart. And obviously, this is not all white people, but enough of white people that we can even have a conversation about it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely.
So does that make sense though? The control part, like.
Hmm. Yeah. Always feeling like they have to correct us, even though we're not doing anything wrong. We're just being ourselves
That's right. You were
and
saying
trying
that.
to navigate a situation, but
Yep.
it's not to their liking, so it has to be corrected.
Yeah.
But then we can never win because no matter what we do, it's always wrong.
Right.
So that's where the control piece comes in.
Got it. Now, considering the topic at hand, do you have maybe a solution that we could consider in the context of white supremacy that could allow us to sort of thrive and move forward away from feeling the experiences of oppression?
Two things come to mind. One of the things I'm starting to do now
Mm-hmm.
in my practice is to tailor the work that I do with my clients, my women of color clients, right? So I kind of go off the script, right? So a lot of the training that we've done is very prescriptive, right? Very structured, do step one, step two, step three, right? Doesn't always work with my clients. And so I veer off of that structure, and that's where I find the most success, right? So for example, I do a lot of trauma work with my clients. And there's, the whole concept of evidence-based practice, right? Do research, you find that the research shows that these types of strategies are most beneficial to clients. So you go get the book and you follow it to a T, and your clients are saved, right? And so there's a lot of clients that don't mesh well with that, right? And so some of the strategies might be fine to use, but that prescriptive way does not always work with them, right? And so what I've been doing was just pulling from different things and doing more of an eclectic approach with my clients. And that's been working really well, very, very well. And that speaks to the idea of professionalism too, because another piece of professionalism is this whole idea of self-disclosure, right? We're taught in school that we're not supposed to share ourselves. We're supposed to kind of be this like blank slate almost, right? You
Yeah.
can't really tell anything about yourself. It's not about you at all. It's about the client, and that's it, right? But there's some things that you can't help but disclose. If you're in an office with a client and you have a picture of your family, boom, self-disclosure. Now they know you have a family, right? You have your partner and your kids in the picture that they're staring at for the full hour that you're talking to them, right? So there's going to be some things that you can't hide, right? And then clients want to be able to connect with their therapist. They want to feel like this person gets me, right? So one of the things that I started doing was free consultations with clients. 15 minutes, I don't charge them at all. And I say, this is a way for both of us, you and me, to see if we're a good fit for each other, right? You're interviewing me, I'm interviewing you too. I want to make sure I'm able to meet your needs as well, right? And so a lot of the clients that I do these consultations with, most of them are people of color, most are women, or even LGBTQ plus population. And a lot of them say that they tried therapy before, didn't connect with the therapist, and they're looking for someone that really understands them. And during that consultation, I'm 100% authentic, right? I tell them what my counseling style is. I even put in my profiles on different websites what my counseling style is. And I tell them things like, I'm going to call you out, I'm going to be honest with you and let you know if I see something that you're doing that you probably shouldn't be doing, right? I'm going to be me 100%, right? I'm going to laugh with you. I'm going to joke with you. If I was in the office with you, I'll be giving you tissue if you needed to cry. I'm not going to be this blank wall, and there's times when they might say something and my facial expression will show that I'm 100% feeling what they say. And I can't hide it. Like they'll tell me something about their white boss and my face shows everything that I'm feeling. And they're like, that's exactly the face I had when it happened to me, right? And then we laugh about it. And that's the things that they appreciate, and word of mouth spreads because I get a lot of clients that recommend me to other people and say, you need to work with her because she's real, and they appreciate that. They don't want someone that's this blank slate that's going to sit there with a notebook and just stare at you and be like, so how did you feel about that? Like, they don't care about that. They want to have a conversation with somebody And they want to be held accountable for their actions, and they want to be shown how to do things in a way that's going to benefit their life. They want somebody
Yeah.
real, you know?
Yes.
And when you use the professional way of counseling like we're taught in school, it doesn't include any of that.
That's
Everything is
right.
just by the book.
So what you're saying is, so one of the solutions in sort of challenging white supremacy in the mental health field is, as a therapist, as a practitioner, you have to step outside of the box to be able to serve your clients' needs exactly where they're at, but not as a robot or like a cardboard version of yourself, but as a human being who's authentic and who is relatable based on your lived experiences. And so stepping outside the box and sort of conforming to these sort of clinical expectations is one of the ways you're saying that we can sort of we can look at a solution for sort of transcending white supremacy in the mental health field.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm in a lot of therapist Facebook groups, and a lot of people that are newer to the field come in and they ask questions. And I see questions all the time about just like basic things. Like, is it okay if I drink water in front of my client? What? What do you do if you have to go to the bathroom? You go to the bathroom. What? We are human first. Hello. But we've been so conditioned that everything that we do is under a microscope that these are the types of questions that's coming up. You know, like, what if I have to be human in this moment? What is that going to do to the client? Like, they'll be fine. Trust me. They'll appreciate it.
I think a lot of that has to do with the conversation around liability, right? Like, we're always thinking about how we're supposed to be in space with a client, but it's like a fear-based approach that we've been sort of conditioned to believe in. That is like, you're liable. Like I'm just a therapist. Like, I'm not in control of the other human being, right? And so I think a lot of that has to do with the angst that new therapists come into the field with has to do with liability, right? They don't want to get sued. They don't want to lose their job. They don't want to lose their license, whatever it is, right? It's always like, what am I liable for, right? And I think that sort of idea of liability is basically about the bottom line. It's not even about the services that we want to provide, right? And I think that really freaks people out.
Yeah. And so they question every little thing. Every little thing.
I've seen, like, I mean, we've been around a whole bunch of therapists and mental health professionals, and I've seen the very there's almost like a way you have to show up that sort of rips you away from your humanity, whereas like you're not even like a human being anymore. Like, you have to be like this other persona that's not authentic, and it really is like concerning for me, like when I see that, because I feel like if you're showing up in spaces with colleagues in that way, what are you doing with clients? Like, how stiff do you gotta be?
Right. Like, when you're asking a question, like, if a client says something that's funny, is it okay for me to laugh? What?
No,
I mean, come on.
Yo, like, listen, like, I talk to my clients, like, I'm always myself. Like, I don't do anything different other than be me. And there's things that I'll make faces, I'll make jokes, but they love and appreciate that because they know that there's a human being sort of listening to them, and not like this sort of weird, again, like a cutout version of myself that is not really real. And so I get that. That really, especially for our community, because we so are, when it comes to the historical context of our relationship to the mental health field, there's been a lot of harm caused. And so there's a real lack of trust. And so they're not already trusting us. You know, even us, when they get in the rooms, even though we look like them, they already looking at us like, what you gonna do now? Diagnose me and like do what? Like give me meds or try to give me meds, even though we don't do meds. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you have a client, a person of color that goes in and they talk to a white therapist about something that's very normal in their family and in their culture. And then, do you know what? The therapist is looking at you with a side eye. Like, what are you doing? Why do you do that? You know, like, this is normal. And clients tell me this kind of stuff all the time. They're like, you know, I need to be able to sit with somebody and explain how my family is and know that you're going to get it. That's you know? Like, you're not going to think it's weird, you know?
That's right. Well, anyway, it's 7:58, so we're coming to the close of the hour. And I just wanted to know if you had any final words as to close us out.
I would say go by the rule #no apologies. Right?
Hashtag no apologies.
Yeah. Just be yourself unapologetically. Right? Whether you're a therapist or whether you're just a normal human being navigating this world, don't apologize for who you are. They will adjust.
That's right. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, that said, thank you so much, Fanteema, for joining me on this live. I really wish that your freaking phone wasn't in the woods, right? You went out so many times with it, because I feel like when we think about like these sort of IG lives or podcasts and stuff that we do, like the viewers get really irritated with any distractions. I've noticed that, right? And so next time we do else, because we will, make sure you got some space where you're not in the woods. Like, I don't know, go to the city somewhere or the town.
I don't know about
I'm
all
just
that.
messing with you. 8th episode of Fighters of the Minds, the Unpacking White Supremacy series, and next week on what's next week on the 20 something, the 26th, next Tuesday we have another. Thank you, Betsy Abrams. Thank you, appreciate that. So next Tuesday we have another live coming up, which is our 9th episode, and after that we'll take a pause. If you're interested in the Freedom Fighters of the Minds, you can reach me at Antonio@theliberatedself.org. We're meeting next week as well on Wednesday. It's an initiative for Black and Brown therapists who want to sort of unpack these things and process our experiences in the work field or in the mental health field. With that being said, thank you so much, Fanteema. Have a great night. Thank you for the viewers that are here today. And thank you for the ones that are going to watch later. Do not mind the technical difficulties. All right, now I'm going to shut this thing off. Peace
All
out,
right,
Fanteema.
bye.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.